Welcome to Tech Talk. Gen AI is exciting. It's writing poetry, debugging code, even negotiating contracts. But in enterprise world, reality hits differently. Behind the scenes, most leaders are learning that adopting Gen AI is less likely flipping the switch and more likely rewiring the house. So today we unpack some powerful insights that can really help organizations to avoid costly missteps and lead smarter Gen AI initiatives. Thank you so much, Pramod, for coming to the show. Really appreciate your time and effort, and thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me here, Jess. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Of course. So, Pramod, to start with, to set the stage, would you like to give a quick introduction of yours?
Sure, I'm Pramod Singh, expert associate partner at Bain Company. It's a world's leading management consulting firm. I lead the data science and machine learning in Asia Pacific, mainly focused on India and Singapore market. More than 15 years of experience in AI and machine learning. I've had chance to work with a lot of large clients, helping them on their digital transformation by integrating some of the critical AI systems into their business strategies.
Mhm.
Apart from my advisory role, I do a lot of Gen AI related work as well. In fact,
Mhm.
I'm the Gen AI COE for Bain in Asia Pacific. I'm passionate about sharing knowledge, so I've authored few books as well.
That's
Uh,
very interesting, I must say. Yeah.
so yeah, that's about me.
Great, very interesting, Pramod. And let's start with our talk and deep dive into what we plan for today. We know that Gen AI or AI has evolved a lot over last decade, right? So I would like to understand from you on the evolution of this Gen AI from last 10 years.
Yeah, being a practitioner myself, I can give a viewpoint around how I've seen this whole entire thing evolve in the last decade or so, right?
Yeah.
If you look back, we were always interacting with AI in some or the other form,
Mhm.
uh, but it was always indirect, right? So if you're using Netflix, if you're using Facebook, right? Behind the scenes, there was always an element of machine learning or AI that
Yeah.
could automatically tag your images or friends, right?
Mhm.
You get YouTube recommendations because there's a recommendation sitting behind the scene. But we never had direct interaction. For example, the machine learning driven fraud detection, any fraudulent transaction on your bank or credit card would be quickly raised. But this few years, couple of years back, this sudden shift has happened.
Yeah.
Now users have got AI in their hands. They are able to directly interact, right? That's
Mhm.
a tremendous shift because now they've got so much power to actually interact with the AI in a form they have never done before. And
Yeah.
hence this just opens up so many opportunities and potential to just reform so many industries in itself, that this is just a start. So this
Yeah.
whole evolution, I feel we are just getting started. uh,
Yeah.
Practice is much more wider than we anticipate.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. It's just getting started, and this is an amazing phase. And I think it comes in once in lifetime, right? That this kind of phase has come, and we will see the whole kind of revolution coming ahead in next 5 to 10 years. So let's unpack some of the powerful insights that can really help to avoid the costly missteps and lead a smarter Gen AI initiatives, right? So we have seen that we have seen a lot of demos related to Gen AI. You type
Mhm.
the prompt and you get the magic. But actually, when you see behind the scenes, it's not that simple. And when you have to put the application into the real world,
Right.
teams realize that it's not just plug and play. It has a lot of other things to be added on as well, like your prompt libraries, your domain tuning, security reviews, and a lot of different things. So from your point, I would like to understand that what are the most common early stages misconceptions you have seen with organizations and clients where they think that, oh, it's just plug and play, but it's not actually.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very valid point. Just see, like any other application, GenAI application also needs some foundational pillars for it to support its implementation, right?
Yeah.
It's not a plug and play, and I'll give you reasons why. One is the integration complexity itself. Gen AI implementation is far beyond your simple prompts. It
Mhm.
requires your model customization as per the business use case and context. It requires fine tuning and integrating the business workflows, right? So it's not straightforward. On top of it, GenAI requires specialized infrastructure, additional compute resources, and robust and scalable pipelines.
Mhm.
That is not straightforward plug and play. Second is the quality and reliability itself. You can have impressive results in the first go, but to
Yeah.
consistently maintain and keep getting good results, you need to have monitoring, human oversight to
Mhm.
mitigate any sort of risk that can come out of that Gen AI system, right? And
Mhm.
third part is change management. You need people to actually adopt those systems to be actually used, right?
Yeah.
It's not a technology shift, it's more of a cultural shift. So you have to embed AI literacy in your corporate DNA to actually use those systems. So it's far beyond a plug and play mindset. It requires strategic planning, it requires expert input, and also very carefully implemented solution to actually utilize Gen AI, in my view.
Yeah, and I think AI is getting embedded with each and every role, right? So you have said that it's not a shift in the technology, it's a shift in cultural thing. So and even if we see the roles which are coming up, like any developer or architect or tester, so every one, all these roles have AI embedded into them. So I think the time has come when each one of us will have to, and I think people have already started grooming up to learn more about this AI, what's happening behind the scenes. So that's very very valid point. And moving on to another point which is related to the data, right? We have seen that companies just throw like 10 years 15 years of data, tune or to for the model thinking, but it becomes and they think that it's going to be genius, but actually that's not the case. When we start throwing all the older kind of data, it is not an amazing thing. So uh, basically my question to you right now is why you think more data isn't always better.
Yeah, I mean, see, quantity matters. I'm not gonna deny that fact that quantity doesn't matter, but the ground reality is that quality is what creates impact, and the difference is your excellence rather than quantity. And hence, just amassing lot of data which is not relevant for your business use case is a sheer wastage of your compute resources and data processing power.
Yeah.
Hence, you have to carefully consider which are those data points that will help you to extract quality results irrespective of the quantity of the data, right? Because these models are very smart. They are already pre-trained on so much of data that they have
Yeah.
built inherent intelligence. You just want to have sufficient data for it to become more relevant and
Mhm.
intelligent for your business use case.
Yeah.
Hence, you have to have a strategy around figuring out what data does your use case require.
Mhm.
Second is having a proper compliance and regulation check, because you can't just throw in random data. Could include PII, it could have so much implications. So you have to have a framework around data filtration which meets your compliance requirements. And finally, you need to have a very robust data management mechanism for you to actually ingest it, because storing creating is one part, but how do you repeatedly manage your data life cycle so that your systems can continue to produce consistent results? I think all of those things matter rather than just collecting a lot of data and throwing it into a Gen AI engine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very, very valid. And on top of that, I think companies which are just throwing last decade or more than that data, the data might not be good itself, right? It might be obsolete as well. So data quality, like how you mentioned, it's very, very important factor of getting the model work right. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other thing is, like, few years back we had limitations with respect to using unstructured data because of
Mhm.
NLP wasn't as advanced as it is today
Mhm.
because of AI, right?
Yeah.
It just had given the corporates and businesses so much opportunity to actually use unstructured data that was lying within their infra somewhere, right? And storage that now they're able to spin up new use cases just because that data is now become usable. But at the same time, they have to take a very cautious decision around what out of it is actually relevant for their use case, rather than just exhausting all the resources just because the data is available will
Yeah.
not be for a good cause for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very valid point. And that brings me to another question, which is like sometimes Gen AI models, they sound great, right? They sound very, very confident, but actually they are wrong. And the confidence illusion, how you think this can be avoided? What are the factors any industry or any organization should take or should keep in mind so that they do not have this kind of illusion or hallucinations?
Yeah, it's an important area for everyone who's experimenting, who's building Gen AI solutions, and particularly if the applications are for end users, because if they are using your application, they expect it to fully work as per the guidelines and the norms, right?
Yeah.
So you cannot afford to have inconsistent results or responses when
Mhm.
it's the hands of the end users. Hence, it becomes very critical to have sort of very robust mechanism for you to test your GenAI solutions, right? Two, three ways I think of it can be addressed. One is mainly having a very strict guidelines or validation measures within your build cycle, that you test, validate everything through set of golden rules. It could be a data set against which you measure accuracy, completeness, or those sort of metrics, or you have human experts who are actually evaluating and giving a sign off on the performance of the Gen AI engine, right?
Mhm.
Those are a couple of ways in which you can test all the responses with respect to hallucination or bias response. But more than that, it has to be a process. It has to be a continuous process, because no one would be able to achieve 100% efficacy in one go, irrespective of how much testing and validation you come up with. You can have very, very hard guardrails. There would still lie the edge cases where it puts you at risk, right?
Yeah.
Hence, a continuous monitoring and improvement and fine tuning of your systems based on the user feedback, expert feedback, system feedback will make it even better. So it's an ongoing process, and you can use human experts along with the AI agents, because you can then scale faster with
Yeah.
respect to evaluation as well. So it's a
Mhm.
combination of human plus AI driven evaluation that would allow you to consistently improve your Gen AI systems.
Absolutely. I think this is very well said that it's the model still can have corner cases, right? So that can happen with any model. So a continuous learning is required for the model to, solve the kind of corner cases. So a lot of companies are have started building the applications and models related to Gen AI. So, would you like to discuss some of the hidden costs, or just talk about what are the total, factors which are responsible for the costs related to any Gen AI application on very, very high level? I know it is not going to be same for all the industry and for all the use cases. It will be different, but on high level, if anybody has to get an idea that, yeah, these are the factors.
I like the way you put it, because it totally depends on, one is at what scale you're thinking of building that solution. Is it a POC? Is it a MVP? Or it's a full blown production system, right?
I think anything starts with POC, right? I do not think that they'll start. I mean, any company will directly start with full blown production system. So because since this is so new and everybody wants to test it very thoroughly and see that use cases are even fitting their needs or not. So let's talk about the
Yeah.
POC. I understand that POC cost factor would be different than production cost factor, definitely.
No, you're right. In terms of just figuring out or anticipating the cost
Yeah.
for a long run program, there are two, three key areas to think about when we embark on any Gen AI based development, right? One is the total cost of ownership, and I'll break it down for the benefit of just calling out the individual parts of the cost, right? One is the model API cost itself. Given these are NAI costs, based solutions, you need to consistently make API calls unless your model is locally hosted or on premise. You are making API calls to the cloud server of either GPTs or Gemini or Claude. You are There's a cost associated, and it's a factor of total number of tokens, or the kind of use case it is. Is it a very complex image based or text based, right? So those factors come in for you to anticipate your overall cost. Second cost is on the infra side, because these are Gen AI cases. If you're thinking of fine tuning your models, you need TPUs, GPUs, and resource intensive infra at your end for you to do those things, right? And that's a additional cost, because you have to then pay as you use those compute resources. In terms of the data, right? If it's a complex use case, you need to mobilize data, you need to do data processing, you have to store it somewhere. That cost also is a significant chunk of your total cost of ownership. Apart from that, there are other aspects like people cost, because you need data scientists or MLEs to actually build and run these applications. The training and retaining this talent also comes at a cost. And the final one I would call out is the compliance and regulation. There needs to be regular audits for your Gen AI solutions. It
Mhm.
could be external experts coming and evaluating, or it could be internal team, right? So you could have a AI council as well. So
Yeah.
those are a different set of components of cost I would call out for building Gen AI solutions. And it's not that companies won't, on a higher level, try to get an estimate of these costs, but it's just that once you put it in front of end user, let's say after MVP, right? Your load has to be properly sort of calculated. Like in the peak usage hours, your cost could significantly hit a higher number compared to the hours where the users are not as much.
Yeah.
So totally different landscape when you're building POC versus if you put the application in the hands of user.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are the most common people related blockers you have seen so far in Gen AI adoption? So, you mentioned in your early statement that it's not a technology shift, right? Many new technologies keep on coming and going. So, it is more like cultural shift. So, how can leaders get ahead of resistance to build trust and alignment within people so that they start adopting this Gen AI shift?
Yeah, a lot of times people are used to certain processes and certain legacy systems, right? So it's more of a change management issue from their side, because they get so used to certain process that they're not comfortable moving out of it, right? And
Right.
there's also a bit of anxiety with respect to sometimes the job security, right? They're not clear whether AI is helping them or AI is going to replace them. So that's where the anxiety sort
No
of
change is comfortable. So
exactly.
removing any legacy system, I think it's a big deal. And again, that's very correctly said. I was talking to one of the leaders of healthcare, and I was also talking regarding this, that how you really handle the legacy systems, because if you see these industries, they have got systems older than 20 years or so, and now when the time has come to upgrade them, it's not easy. People are sitting in one company for 3 decades or so, and changing their mindset is again not an easy thing. So
Yeah.
that's rightly said.
Other factor I think is more of like the trust or the skepticism
Yeah.
around AI results, right? They don't trust it completely. So that's also a part of the whole resistance that you see sometimes towards adoption of AI systems.
Yeah. So what other factors you think are really important at the start of Gen AI application to be taken care of?
I think as a business and leadership, one should try to set a common vision towards AI. Very important that everyone is on the same page, that why company or a business is embarking on this AI based transformation, so that they get the signal that it's not AI replacing me, but it's AI helping me in my job, right? So that's one factor, that how one can handle it. Second is more of training and upskilling. I think there's a lot of knowledge gap where this whole resistance and anxiety comes from, because they haven't used it. They don't know the true benefits of AI sometimes, and hence proper training and upskilling would really help these employees or people who are not open towards AI adoption. Third would be mainly what happens is you do not include them into some of the prototypes or early wins, right? And that's where if you include the frontliners or some of the power users right from the initial days,
Mhm.
they become your evangelists to tell their team members or other people that this is a fantastic thing. I think you should definitely try it out, right? So all these things help to onboard them on this journey. Otherwise, it becomes a tool on the shelf, and very important for the leadership and the company to actually set a vision for everyone towards AI adoption.
Yeah. I think that's again very important point which you have mentioned. Let's touch base a little bit on the governance, which is very important, right? Security, governance, compliance. So, from your vantage point, I would like to understand that what kind of security, governance, compliance should people consider? Again, it varies from industry to industry, but then on high level, and where do you see people there is a gap, and do they apply this governance steps at the beginning, or some companies, they think that okay, we will have the security and compliance once we have done the POC and post live, and what are the best practices, basically the question.
I think compliance and security and regulations, adhering to regulations is become paramount for any application build, right? And the reason I say that is the implications could be huge, be it financial, reputational, or legal, or like compliance related, right? So no one is willing to take that risk today.
Mhm.
They are willing to invest as much as required in order to get sort of a sign off that we are okay to go ahead to actually build this kind of application, right? Because imagine if you are putting this application, Gen AI application, in hands of end users, and there are things that you had ignored earlier, right? So there could be huge implication. AI, Gen AI could easily hallucinate if you have
Yeah.
not properly addressed those guardrails, right? Hence, it would be a point of no return for some of the businesses, especially if I take financial firm or healthcare based firm. The regulations, compliance requirements are very strict, right?
Mhm.
So no one is really willing to ignore the importance of this topic towards building. So they most most of the businesses would have internal AI council or responsible AI team, which ensures that during the build or the planning phase itself, all these boxes are ticked.
Yeah.
Uh, we have the right experts to advise and confirm that the build team can go ahead and actually build such system. Is the data properly addressed, right? Is the PII properly addressed? Are we exposing any sensitive information to external systems? So
Yeah.
all of those factors are thoroughly checked, and sort of then those builds our initiative. In case people who are underestimating the importance of this topic, I'm pretty sure they would realize the gravity of just acknowledging the compliance and requirements perspective. It could be a huge decision with respect to the implications that they can have.
Yeah.
So broadly, in my experience, no one is taking it lightly.
Mhm.
uh, it's a must have, and everyone is actually sort of taking this and doing the steps required
Mhm.
for it properly execute these builds on Gen AI applications.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important as well. It cannot be ignored. So, yeah. Thank you so much, Pramod, for all your insights. I'm pretty sure that everybody is going to like whatever information you have given. It was amazing. Before we wrap up, I would like to know more about the books you have written.
Okay, I've started with the first book, which was machine learning using PySpark.
Hmm.
For mainly in those days, I was building large machine learning models using multiple clusters of machines. So those days we used to build typical traditional XGBoost random forest models, but it was instead of 1,000 trees, it used to be sort of 10,000 or 100,000 trees. So we used to use machines, multiple machines to train those models. They would take 2-3 days to get trained.
Oh,
uh, so it was mainly on scalable machine learning. and also sequence embedding. Another book has been on deploying the machine learning system on production systems, basically machine learning models on production systems. So that has been another book. Rest of them has been on Spark and TensorFlow. Currently, I'm authoring the book on Gen AI. So it's titled Practical Gen AI from Concept to Deployment.
Mhm.
So currently under progress.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. And looking forward to your third book.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any plan when it is getting launched or when are you finishing it?
We have submitted the initial manuscript, so it's under review. So we'll be getting the feedback of the reviewer and we'll be making changes. And then hopefully in next couple of months, we should be publishing it soon.
All right, great. And we'll be happy to read that book. And thank you so much once again for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it was great talking to you. Looking forward to this whole space evolving into sort of new surprises every week nowadays.
I would say every day for me.
Yes, right. Exciting place to be in.